is how we do it.
This is The Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
In 2016, President Donald Trump won Michigan by about 10,700 votes. Michigan is in play. Both the Republicans and the Democrats want our electoral votes badly. How far will either party go to win? A Michigan judge on Friday ruled that any ballot postmarked by November 2nd, the day before Election Day, must be counted as long as it arrives before election results are certified. Currently, ballots have to be counted only if they arrive before the polls close on Election Day. In Michigan, voting results must be certified no later than 14 days after the election. That means we could be counting for 2 weeks after the election. In a separate decision, on Thursday, a federal judge struck down Michigan's ban on hiring drivers to take voters to the polls. Are restrictions being lifted on who can deliver your absentee ballots to the clerk? Are changes being made to make it tougher to throw out ballots where signatures don't match? Michigan's courts are making decisions every single day, and right now Republicans say most of them favor Joe Biden. The state attorney general, who's a Democrat, is saying the state will not appeal the controversial decisions that are being made in the courts. What can Republicans do about it? Some say they should file an action in the federal courts to stop it. Others say the Republican-controlled legislature should call an emergency session to pass a statute or a binding resolution that says the Constitution says it is clear that it is the legislator's job, not the courts or the governors, to change election laws. It's getting nasty, and we're still weeks away. Joining us now is Riley Began of Bridge, Michigan. She has been covering the court decisions and is here to bring us the latest. Riley, thanks for being on The Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, so a pretty busy week in the courts. I don't know how you're able to follow it all, but can you bring us up to speed on the bigger decisions that are really important to how the election may go in Michigan?
Yeah, so you hit on some of the biggest changes that Michigan voters are going to feel from these two court cases that came out late Thursday and early Friday morning. Probably the biggest one that's going to have the biggest impact is that decision from a state court of claims judge that would allow ballots to be counted if postmarked on the day before election, as long as they reach the clerk within 2 weeks afterwards. For voting rights advocates, that is a big deal. It means the concerns over potential delays related to USPS aren't going to be such a concern if we can make sure that they get there. But like you mentioned, it could mean that we're waiting on results for a lot longer if it is a really tight race, which polls are indicating it could be in Michigan. Like you mentioned, the GOP can't appeal that because they don't have standing, but they could take action in federal court. And the Democrats who are running the executive branch in Michigan have said they're not going to appeal that. That's frustrating to Republicans who say you can't pick and choose which laws you are going to defend. The other big change, which you mentioned, was from Thursday, a U.S. District Court decided to block a transportation ban that bars people from paying for people to get a ride to the polls. That impacts companies like Uber and other groups that often organize to try to help people get to the polls who struggle to get there on their own. Often that's college students or hourly wage workers. So that has been struck down, and now Uber can offer discounted rides, and other advocacy groups can help people do that. But that's the same sort of case because the case was against the state, and the executive branch is run by Democrats. They've decided they are not going to appeal that, and the GOP does not have a lot of options there.
And this is basically all come about because of COVID-19 and the judges trying to figure out how to make things fair. Why do so many Republicans think that these rulings favor the Democrats, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the really public-facing concern that they have voiced is that they're worried about voter fraud, and there are concerns around absentee voting contributing to that. The data shows that mail-in voting is more susceptible to voter fraud than other kinds of voting, but it's still incredibly rare. There's really no evidence to support the idea that there is widespread voter fraud. there's of course, the longstanding political understanding that, when it is made easier for people to vote who sometimes work low-wage jobs or people in cities who have trouble getting to the polls, that could harm Republicans at the ballot box. But that's certainly not the argument that they're making in terms of why they would oppose this.
Now, in Pennsylvania, part of the rulings that they've made along these lines also seem to indicate that it's going to be tougher to throw out ballots if they see things that don't look right. Maybe the signatures don't quite match. Has that been discussed in the Michigan courts, or have there been rulings along those lines here?
So the signature matching issue is really an interesting one in Michigan. It's been raised a little bit. I don't think that there's currently any legal outstanding cases on that subject, but I can talk a little bit about how that works in Michigan. If you are voting absentee for the first time, you're going to be asked, not even for the first time, you'll be asked to sign your ballot envelope. And that basically goes through a computer that's going to check your signature against the signature that you have on file at the Secretary of State's office. If you are confused about what that might look like, it's going to be probably the one that's on your license, your driver's license if you have one. And if it's significantly different, then it will be flagged and a person will check out and kind of make sure that it matches. But that is definitely a concern that sometimes you may not be flagged, but you're supposed to be flagged. So if you have any concern that your signature has changed a lot over the years, just contact your clerk and make sure that they accepted your ballot.
So the constitutional issue in this seems to be who has the right to decide what the election laws are going to be. Is it the legislative branch, the executive branch, or the judicial branch? You said the state party is not anxious to take this to court or to fight it any other way. Could the national party step in and try and do something if they feel Michigan's in play?
Sure. I think that's an option. It would be certainly an escalation. I haven't heard that they're going to do that, but anything could happen. And, these things are getting more and more litigious. So it certainly could be in the cards.
Was there any pushback about the decision not to appeal these judges' decisions? They were the one was ordered, by Judge Steffens, who was appointed by Jennifer Granholm, who was a Democratic governor, and everybody says politics is involved in every decision everywhere, and of course the state AG is a Democrat as well. Or do you think most people are saying, well, look, that was the ruling, and we don't see a reason to step in and change it. Just let people vote. Let's count the votes and see who wins.
Mm-hmm. The state party has definitely raised concerns about it. They have been saying, this is not okay. The AG and the governor should appeal this as the defendants in this case because of the way that the laws are written, and they can't pick and choose what they're going to defend. But in the end, they don't really get to make that decision for the executive branch. Like we mentioned, they could take it into federal court. They could ask, the legislature, which is run by Republicans right now, they could ask the Supreme Court for an advisory opinion. That happens from time to time. And that could potentially impact whether or not this stands. But because this is just a temporary, I should mention that this is just for the 2020 election. So after 2020, if you're voting in future elections, unless the legislature makes changes, make sure that your ballot reaches the clerk by election day. It's just for this one election right now that it can reach it afterwards.
All right. Well, obviously, a lot of people think this particular election is a pretty important one, maybe the most important one of all times. It'll be interesting to see if the Michigan Republican legislature will call an emergency session to try and fight this on any level. Riley Began, Bridge, Michigan, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate all the work you're doing covering these cases in the courts. Thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Appreciate it. Your calls are next. The number is 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. We want to hear from you. You're listening to The Guy Gordon Show. Right now, let's check traffic with Rich Lazinski.
Remember me?
Happy birthday, big guy.
Cheney Street there, and a wreck still closes I-94 eastbound at 9 Mile. Looks like you're backed up to Vernier. Now WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Here's your forecast.
South winds coming around the backside of Canadian high pressure warm us up here for the top of the work week. About a 10-degree warm up by Wednesday for us. After a chill in the air this weekend, we're at 70 this afternoon. Comfortable 49 tonight. Tomorrow mostly sunny, high 75. Wednesday sunshine and 80. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie. More on News Talk 760 WJR.
I thought of it this morning. Yeah. No. And we have a surprise rejoin for Guy when he gets back too. I'm selling loans for Quicken on the side here. All right, Patrick checking in.
It's your cake.
Mark Gardner checking in.
Wait, let me but take the toothpicks out.
It's a little chaotic here back at the ranch, Kevin.
Yeah.
I made a cake for Rich's birthday, which was last Saturday, and he's now diving into it.
I missed Rich's birthday. We were supposed to wish him happy birthday right before, and we missed it. So I'm within 10 days.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, Kevin says happy belated birthday. Let's see. Kevin got some good news. Clay Jerky, regular in here, got a job. Oh, well, congratulations, Clay, but we'll miss you in our normal everyday chit-chats here.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. Good job. See, listening to WJR makes you smarter and more employable.
I feel like we could still find Clay in some of the hours between 5:30 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Right, unless he's like a volunteer firefighter or something, or
Right.
24 hours on, 24 hours off.
Hey, Mark, how are you? Good to see you. Patrick, welcome.
With the current state.
So, Kevin, I'm just seeing this alert. The auto show is moving to fall of 2021.
I'm going to miss it.
What was that?
I said I'm going to miss it.
You're going to be gone in the summer 2021? Oh, yeah.
No summer auto show.
We never had a summer auto show.
We were supposed to, though.
We were supposed to, but we never did have it.
Yeah.
This just in, the 2021 auto show has been postponed to 2025.
How about the Dream Cruise?
Yeah.
Oh, that was still hopping. Sadly.
The boot turned into a political rally.
So I live, my front yard, you can see Woodward. And I know people were worried about all of that, but I knew it was happening, but there was nothing political that I saw going on. Nothing different that other than a couple Trump flags that I saw, which was.
I got caught driving in the Dream Cruise. I was driving my old purple minivan, and I don't know if people thought it was a classic or.
Well, was it technically a classic when you had it?
It was about 20 years old. That thing lasted for a long time, so I guess technically it might have been a classic car.
That was a great car. I rode around with that.
So what's your excuse, Mike? If listening makes you smarter, you should be a genius. Patrick, you have a blessed day.
Oh. Oh.
It's called blessing people off. Just kidding. I love you, Patrick. I just push the buttons. I don't really listen. Just because I work here doesn't mean I'm listening. Except for when Kevin's on.
Yeah.
Should we tell the bosses
What?
that you're not really listening?
I hear the station.
It's like your fantasy football. The less he listens, the better he is.
Hey, look at that. We're back in 10 seconds.
This is The Guy Gordon Show, 760 WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
The courts are making moves, and it could make a difference in the 2020 election. What do you think about what's happening? Let's start with Mike in Clinton Township. Mike, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Hello, Kevin. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of our Constitution says the legislature is the only one that has any authority on this. I don't know how you put it, but they're in charge of the election. The courts are not. You can get Dr. Larry Arnn on from Hillsdale College or anybody, and they'll tell you that. The Democrats have employed Perkins Coie. They're in 40 states with lawsuits right now, 40 different states. And they're suing to get votes counted after the election. Doesn't matter if your signature matches. They're trying to swing this election. Their polls are better than the network polls and all these polling places you hear about, and they know how close it's going to be. The other thing is we can't have a 4-4 Supreme Court rule on this election.
So, Mike, why, if Article 2 says the legislative branch has the final say, not the executive or the judicial, and I agree with you on that, why aren't state legislators in Michigan who have the power, why aren't they jumping up and down and say, we're going to do something about this? We're going to call an emergency session. We're going to take a vote, and we're going to let it be known that we disagree with the judges making the decision, or the governor for that matter. Why aren't they taking action?
The national parties are fighting in court. They're fighting in our courts right now, and I don't know any reporters are reporting on this. They know they can read the docket down at the 11th courthouse. They could read that docket. They know that there are lawsuits happening right now. They're not reporting it because they don't want it to look like, there's something going on. Your vote might not count all the way.
But the Republicans could call for an emergency session, say we're going to pass a binding resolution that says we disagree that the courts have the right to let ballots be counted for an additional 14 days, or that they are allowed to bar the ban on rides to the polls, or that they are allowed to expand who can turn your vote in. They could take action. They don't have to wait for the national party to battle in the federal courts. They could take action here locally.
They need to do that because they want to harvest ballots. Like they swung redistrict in California after the election by harvesting ballots because they knew who didn't vote, how many people didn't vote. This big nursing home with 600 residents didn't vote. We're going to go over there. We're going to take ballots to them. They went, took ballots to them, and turned them in. They filled them out for them, too. All they did was sign them. There's 3 different representatives in California that were declared winners on election day. A week later, so it really wasn't like that.
All right, Mike, thanks for calling in from Clinton Township. We appreciate you being on the Guy Gordon Show. Let's check in with George from Detroit. George, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks. Yeah, the big reason, and he kind of stole some of my thunder there, what he was saying, that the House was flipped was because of California, because it's legal, ballot harvesting. I mean, they were pulling, and the old sayings come to mind of vote early, vote often, and it doesn't matter who votes, it's who counts the votes, and, all those kind of things that caused the House to be flipped. And then look at who were the major players in the impeachment hoax. Nadler from where? California. Pelosi from where? California. Schiff from where? California. Most of the major players were doing that. But like you said, Mark Levin was saying the other day, and then I had repeated what he said, and this guy kind of touched on it. He didn't mention Mark's name, but that it goes to the state legislature. Now, they might not be objecting now because they might object after the fact and say, no, the court's saying, your signature doesn't have to match, and you can turn it in several days later, a week later, or whatever, and all this stuff. They all have to be counted. They might just be able to wait. I don't know, but till it actually happens, and then they can test it. But if Democrats are so afraid, then go vote in person, like most conservatives and Republicans are going to do. So if you're so worried about the Trump going to cheat on the mail-in ballots, but Jimmy Carter was on a panel. Did I mention this? In 2005, of a bunch of different political officials delving into voter fraud. They found out 83% of voter fraud was mail-in ballots. All right. So why are people afraid? It's like for these very reasons. Just keep counting till we win. I mean, it's crazy. So go ahead, Democrats, go to the polls if you're really afraid that the Republicans are going to cheat you, but they don't want to do that. So there you go. They're just going to try and do that again and pull things out of the basements and trunks and bus station lockers. Oh, we found another briefcase of votes for the Democrats. It's always the Democrats, though, right?
George, I went down in 2000. I was working in Michigan, but I went down to Florida to cover the tie down there between Bush and Gore. And it was a disaster trying to figure things out after the vote. If they could get things cleared up before the vote, it would be a lot better than waiting till after to start filing complaints and concerns about how things were decided. It would be wise to get things filed and settled beforehand, so that afterwards they don't just say, well, sorry, this is where we're at. We're going to certify the election and move on. Too bad. But thank you for your call. I appreciate it. We're going to move on to Chris in Rochester Hills. Chris, thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, thanks for the call. Nice talking to you. A couple of quick points. And first of all, I find it kind of a conflict of interest that we're relying on the USPS, who has to deliver a good portion of this election now, and when they're openly endorsing a candidate. Isn't it kind of a conflict of interest, knowing that they are holding part of this election and they purely support Biden?
It's not a good look.
And it's certainly not a good look. Second of all, the signature thing, it's kind of a joke. If I go slow, I have copies of my wife's, my mom's, my dad's, my sister's signatures. I could copy any one of them if I want to go slow, and it's going to take a handwriting expert to tell. So I think saying we're going to Secretary of State, come on.
All right, Chris, thanks for calling us. The phone lines are going to stay open after the break, so give us a call at 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. You're listening to The Guy Gordon Show. Right now, let's check traffic and weather with Rich Lazinski.
WJR Traffic First is also sponsored by Shelving.com. Shelving.com is a wide selection of Metro Band shelving and storage products, now offered at new lower prices, from their popular chrome wire shelving to antimicrobial Metromax units. Shelving.com is the best spot to shop for your Metro product needs. At Shelving.com, we rack your world. An accident on I-96 westbound after Wixom Road is cleared, although we still have stop-and-go traffic from I-696. Expect delays on I-94 eastbound at Mount Elliott Street. Drivers are still dealing with the aftermath of an earlier accident there. The Southfield Freeway remains sluggish in both directions at Michigan Avenue. That's due to continued construction. And a wreck still closes I-94 eastbound at I-9 Mile. Looks like you're backed up to Vernier there. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Sunny, it's 69 degrees. Expecting clear skies for the evening. I'm Rich Lazinski. WJR News in 1 minute.
1976. Schwartz and Company is a operated investment advisory firm that has steadily grown to serve clients in all 50 states.
So Lauren was telling me that they didn't move the auto show for health considerations.
Gotta go and show this one. No, it doesn't really give a reason as to why, but it says that they moved it and they've talked to the OEMs, and the only time it states COVID being in it is because they moved it this summer.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. I don't know why they moved it then. I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of moving it to a warm weather month.
Well, especially if they're planning on doing part of it outside still.
Wasn't there some big move in California or New York with one of their auto shows that butted up against ours?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
I know CES.
I think LA moved theirs right on top of ours in the summer.
Oh, that's possible.
Let me find another story to see if
because wasn't one of the big reasons of us moving it is because
the Free Press posted less than 2 weeks after the LA auto show moved from November to May, upset the balance of power among the auto industry's top events for unveiling new vehicles. The Detroit show just snatched the big prize, the sole available time slot for a major show in the fall, the heart of the new vehicle season. Will take place September 24th, October 9th.
So then I'm wondering, would the fall move then be permanent if they're trying to move it to the heart of the
until LA or New York steps on that one again, and then we're
Good. How are you?
Did it say which month in the fall?
May. Or I'm sorry, will take place September 24th to October 9th.
It might still be somewhat warm. Hang on a second.
It's Ashley over at Total Traffic. Kevin,
Hey, Ashley.
When we come back here, though, we have a call that I need to answer in a moment. But aside from that, we can either chat about other things before we have Lomas.
No. No, but last week, we were having a hard
Is anyone on the line or no?
There is someone there I've got to answer. I just put him on hold
okay.
because we were chatting, so I haven't been able to get what they're
I
calling
was
about.
having a hard time, so he said he tried the other one.
But hopefully we'll be able to do it. We can also, just throw out the phone number a couple more times. And
that's fine.
Get a couple more calls.
The three of us can not talk nonsense about it for the auto show for 7 minutes and
it was
get to the next one.
Well, there's no shortage of things going on right now.
I know.
Said, okay, I'll try it the backup way, and he sent it to me that way, and it worked. So I just asked him to stick with that.
Yeah, the auto show stuff interests me. I don't know why. Oh, our caller just dropped.
Just the first few ones I wasn't getting them, and so I called Pete, and he sent it down the backup way,
and Lomas will be joining us on here, so we'll know when he's joined in. He might be a little bit early. He was last.
He's the next segment, though, right?
I was getting him.
Yeah, the 45 or 47 segment, whatever time we'll actually be back. Oh,
nothing happened.
Hang on,
I just told Laura we were
a minute.
Okay. LA moved theirs in between Detroit and New York. That's what I thought, Patrick. Now I think Detroit's just maneuvering again to move theirs back to the fall so it can have that prime spot to itself.
I'm sorry, what was that, Kevin?
Oh, no, that I was just talking to Patrick on Facebook about the auto show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We do not have a
we're
caller.
going back on the
inside-outside,
yeah,
guys.
so that's what's going on. Thanks. Hold on, we're back.
Mark, I heard a few things, but not much on the masks.
The stories that have been breaking while you've been at work. 760 WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
You're listening to The Guy Gordon Show. We also have Laura Hessen and Mike Parsons with us. The phone number here is 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. We're taking your calls. We've been talking a little bit today about the courts getting involved in the elections, and are they doing too much? Is there too much activity in the courts? Is it even their job to decide what election laws will look like, or should it be the legislature that gets together and makes the decisions? That's what the Constitution says, but is that what's happening? The number is 1-800-859-0957. Also, we wanted to let you know that the Detroit Auto Show, officially known as the North American International Auto Show, is moving. It's going to take place September 24th to October the 9th. So back to the fall it goes. And apparently automakers and other partners and key stakeholders were talking about this thing, and they thought after California moved theirs so close to Detroit's, that maybe going back into the fall would be the best spot, a key spot to showcase cars and all the great stuff that takes place at the auto show. But I want to bring in Mike and Laura here for a second to get your take on what we've been talking about. First of all, with the courts, do you guys think there's any problem, or do you think it's just fine that they're going to allow votes to be counted as up to 14 days after the election, absentee votes, as long as they're postmarked in advance?
I mean, if they're postmarked before election day, I mean, I'm like everyone else. I love watching the returns on election night, but especially with with more people voting via mail-in ballot, I have no problem with waiting a little bit as long as they are postmarked before election day, personally.
How do you feel about the idea of so many people voting by mail now? I mean, I think the more people that vote, the better. It's great. But there is some concern about fraud when you try and figure out who's going to determine if these signatures are legit. I mean, how many ballots are you getting sent to your home? And are the people who they're sent to going to be the ones who cast the votes? Or is it just too small of a number, the fraud number, to really make a difference? Michigan, a little less than 11,000 votes determined the winner last time around, Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. That's not a lot of votes out of 10 million people, but is there really that much fraud to make a difference?
I mean, to be honest, I really haven't been following it until everyone was saying, to one side was saying it's ripe with fraud, and the other side saying no, it's pretty safe. I mean, if it were me personally, I would request a mail-in ballot, and then I would turn it in at my local city clerk to bypass all of that.
But I don't think that they should be accepting ballots if the signatures don't match up at all. And if there's an issue and a question with that, I think that is a valid concern.
Well, I mean, is that the protocol anyway?
But I think there's a couple speculation that that's not actually going to be happening. And I don't want to be quoted completely on that, but I know that there's some concerns about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. If the signature is completely different, you shouldn't, you obviously shouldn't accept it. But as far as I know, and like I said, I'm not an expert in this, but as far as I know, that is the protocol. But the question is, how easy is it to forge a signature?
I have another question too, Kevin, and I don't know that there's going to be an answer on this, or there is. So we've got 2 weeks after the postmark of November 2nd. How are they going? Either they're going to wait the 2 full weeks because they're not going to know if they've got all the ballots, because they said up until they receive the ballots, or 2 full weeks, correct?
Right. Yeah. So first of all, the forged signature issue is playing out right now in Pennsylvania, where they said if you used to just toss that out. If it doesn't match, you throw it out. But now in Pennsylvania, the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania has said that, no, we want you to hold on to that, and we'll make a better determination than just tossing it out. We'll hold on to that ballot and check into it further if we need to. Now, maybe that's just to safeguard if it's really, really, really close. But there's no doubt that some states are going to be very close. So the idea that they're going to just not end up using the additional days to count all the absentee ballots is wishful thinking. They're going to spend the time to count every vote that comes in. So it could be 14 days. Now, if all the mail seems to come and then the ballots stop for a day, it seems like the post office did their job and stuff got there. They could certify the election if it wasn't terribly close, but if it's close at all, they're gonna wait the full 14 days. And what does that hurt if they wait 14 days to decide, who won and who lost in Michigan? Maybe not as big a deal as if changes are made to, for instance, getting rides to the polls. If in the past, if you couldn't get rides to the polls and now you can, does that help one side or the other? I don't know. What about who delivers your ballot to the clerk? Before, you had to deliver your ballot to the clerk, or the postal service had to. Now, or a family member. Now that's being expanded according to the court rulings in Michigan. They're saying that other people can deliver your ballot on your behalf. How good do you feel about that? Again, if it's a blowout, it doesn't really matter. But if it's tight, and in Michigan, it was really, really tight last time around, it could make a difference.
So I have a stupid question, and Lori, you probably could actually answer this because you vote absentee. If you vote absentee and you don't mail it back and you take it to the clerk or you drop it off physically, do you still have to sign your signature?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On the envelope.
Yeah, because my point was going to be if people would just do that, it would. But since you still have to do the same, that's not a solution.
And if there's someone that, say it's someone that's elderly, or there's other parts on the ballot or the envelope too that you can put on there saying that I'm filling it out for.
Why don't they use like a fingerprint or something instead? You can't forge a fingerprint.
But you're expecting that everyone's going to have a stamp pad sitting around for that?
I don't know. I mean, it's something to look into.
Yeah, all of a sudden people will be sleeping and they'll have their thumbprint. They'll wake up with ink on their hand as
or
their fingerprint went in for a
you
vote.
can say put thumbprint here, and then maybe the polling location or whoever counts it, they have a little black light and they can match it up that way.
Are you guys at all constitutionalists, though? Do you think that it should be challenged to make any changes by anyone other than the legislature? It's pretty clear. Article 2 says the legislature is the body that decides what changes need to be made, not the executive branch and not the judicial branch. So, according to the Constitution, judges shouldn't be deciding how many days you can vote, or whether or not the signature should match or not match, or who can deliver your vote to the clerk's office. That these decisions are supposed to be made by the legislature and the legislature only. All right, you have no big opinion on that. I'm with you.
I wasn't sure if you're asking the callers or if
I was asking you, but that's okay. We're up against the wall. We'll check in with traffic and weather with Rich Lazinski, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Lions football.
We have an accident on US 23 southbound after Owen Road. That's blocking your left lane. The roadway is reduced to 2 lanes on I-75 northbound between 7 Mile and Adams Road. And a wreck still closes I-94 eastbound at 9 Mile. Looks like you're backed up to Harper Avenue there. Now WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Reamer Floors. Introducing Karastan waterproof luxury vinyl floors. Now in stock at Reamer Floors. Luxury vinyl floors by Karastan are better than nature intended. Shop from home at reamerfloors.com or shop in store by appointment at Reamer Floors in Bloomfield Hills. Here's your forecast.
Boy, fall was in the air this past weekend, and we'll continue to enjoy a very comfortable forecast here today across the Motor City. High pressure east of us and south wind starting to build in. We do warm up here next several days. We're at 70 today, but by Wednesday, we're close to 80. 49 degrees our low tonight. Tomorrow, sunshine 75. Wednesday, sunshine 80. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie. More on News Talk 760 WJR.
Yeah, sorry to leave you hanging there, Kevin. I thought you were setting up phone calls.
I'm just talking to myself. Don't mind me.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, Clay's out of work for the day. He's back. Welcome in, Clay. Thanks for checking in.
Well, Clay's back.
Bill does not agree with me about waiting 2 weeks. Hopefully it doesn't take 2 weeks, but
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like voting in person is the most accurate way to do it. But you want people to be able to vote. I mean, I almost wouldn't mind people voting on their cell phones if they could, if you had your social security card, or
right, if it
some
were
code
super encrypted.
But I think voting by phone would be just as legit as voting by mail, probably.
Yeah, it might be more secure eventually. I mean, I think at this point, I think a lot of people feel weird about that, but I'm sure
he's gotten 5 mail-in applications, all to the trash. He's voting in person no matter what. I've gotten a lot of ballots. I know all of my kids came here to the house, even though they don't all live here. I could fill them all out and sign all their names and take them all to the clerk's office if I wanted to. I don't know that anything would stop me from doing that. We've got some that were sent to people who used to live in this house and people who never lived in this house. So, I mean, just applications, not actual ballots. But
right.
But if you wanted to fill those out and have them all sent to you, I don't know if you'd get the ballots or not.
Let's see. Lomas is with us. Hey, Lo, how's your audio sounding? Talk to us.
Testing 1, 2. How does it sound? Am I sounding good?
Sounds nice. Sounds nice.
Okay. I got this nice fancy microphone, huh?
Ooh. Looks like a Spartan microphone.
I know. I got my little cover. Well, by the way, what does the cover do? Does it do anything?
Yeah, if you pop your P's, if you pronounce your P's a little too much, it'll stop that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I do pop the P's. So
See? See, you can pop that P all you want. That thing will protect us. All right. Here we come in third. I saw they did a write-up on you guys about broadcasting an away game in an empty stadium. That was interesting.
Yeah. I might have to read that. I seen the picture that they showed. So it was interesting too.
We're back in 15 here. I'm put you away for a second, Lo. We'll be right back.
Okay.
The Guy Gordon Show, 760. Here's special guest host, Kevin Dietz.
We have a lot of upset Detroit Lions fans out there. I'm trying to be an optimist. I've seen the Lions start out 0-2 before and come back and have really, really good seasons. And hey, losing to Green Bay at Lambeau Field, not that surprising, but it was a loss that came after they had a lead, and it happened a week after a loss that came to Chicago after they had a lead, and it has a lot of people wondering if the Lions can protect a lead. And joining us now is our main Lions man, Lomas Brown. Lomas, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Well, you watched it. What did you think?
Oh my God, it's discouraging. That's what it is. I mean, to see the same thing happening over and over again, and just no adjustments being made, no significant adjustments being made. I just think it's just really frustrating. And, you just look at who's to blame. You don't know whether it's the coaching that's happening. You don't know whether it's the play on the field. I guess it's a combination of all of it, but it's just not very good right now.
As you watch the offense, they've been able to get out there and score some points early, which usually gets the momentum going. And do you feel like the offense is clicking enough to get it done? And can we put it all on the defense, or does the offense need to do more as well?
Oh, I'm quite sure it's a lot of things that they see, not only the players, but the coaches see offensively that they can do better to help out. I mean, again, if you go back to the Chicago game, I just think if we simply just kept running the ball, we'd eventually ran the time out, especially the way Adrian Peterson was running the ball. I think when you look at this game, you look at mistakes. You can't have turnovers, pick sixes, and you can't have penalties that come at opportune times that stop drives or that halt drives. So those are the things that kind of happen on offense that compounded the problem. And of course, on defense, it's just been a seemed like a year or two long problem with the defense. This has been the 11th straight game, and we've had leads in a lot of these games, 7 games or so, and we just hadn't been able to keep the leads, double-digit leads in the last 4 games, and lost it. So it's just hadn't been good, and it's a combination of everything. I think you can pinpoint the one area, but I think you have to look at the total area.
I remember when Matt Patricia first came in, there was a little bit of griping from players about how hard he wanted them to work. There was talk about too much running and this and that, and we're professionals and we get in shape and we're ready to play. We're ready for the games. We don't need all this extra conditioning, if you will. And when you think about it just from a fan's perspective and you see giving up when you get out into a lead and then you end up losing, sometimes you think maybe the players run out of gas, but that's not necessarily the case, is it? It really can be much more about coaching decisions on how to field position and clock position and things like this.
Absolutely. All that comes into play. You're absolutely right about that. But there is such thing as mental fatigue with players too. And I think the one thing that the Lions players right now, the one thing that they have to do if they want to try to turn this ship around is they're going to have to pay attention to the small details. And that's what it is. That's what I'm seeing in the second half of games. In the second half of games, we're not getting off blocks. We're not using our fundamental techniques. We're not keeping gap integrity. We're having penalties. We're doing unfundamental things, especially in the second half of games. And once that started happening, then you almost have like this snowball effect. You wouldn't think of a 5-yard false start penalty could be the start of this snowball effect, but that's all it takes sometimes. All it takes is a penalty here or a miscue here or a missed assignment here. Little things like that in the NFL, that if those things happen like that, then after a while, it just, like I say, it becomes a snowball effect and you can't stop it. The momentum of the game is so much. A lot of times you can't change that momentum once it starts going in a certain way.
We've seen the Lions start off strong and finish weak, and start off weak and finish strong. Either way, we've seen it all here in Detroit. But 2 games really isn't anything, is it, Lomas?
Well, no, it's not. But again, you have to look at the way we've been losing. That's the thing. That's the telltale thing. Yeah, you would think being 0-2, yeah, you got the rest of the season ahead of you. But if you don't correct what's been going wrong for, say, like we on an 11-game losing streak, basically it's been because we can't finish the second halves of games. That's still going on this year. So there's a problem there because the same thing keeps happening. But yeah, you do have the rest of the season. You still have 14 more games left. You're still in it mathematically. So I guess that's the encouraging part. But until you get these problems fixed, I think you're going to keep getting the same results.
With social media, you see so much instant reaction, and we know that the fans are mad. Many fans have given up on our coach and on our general manager. They seem to be sticking by the players. But what are the players done, or are the players still buying in?
You got to. You're a professional. You're a professional. You have to. You have to be a professional at all times, even if sometimes your surroundings or the position you're in right now is not a professional or a likely position to be in right now. You have to conduct yourself as a professional. What does that mean? That means film study. That means taking your job serious. That means taking your job home with you and feeling the pain pain of the fans out here. They should feel the pain. Yes, we should. We used to feel it back in the day, man. We know how long these fans have been starving around here. So yes, we as players, we should feel that pain that they're going through. So yes, take it home with you, live it, earn it. Yeah, it's yours right now. You have to wear it right now. You are 0-2, and until you turn that around, people are going to look at you that way.
We know that the coaches are looking at film to see how everyone can get better, but does anyone look at the film to see how the coaches can get better? Are they being checked up on to see if their decisions are made correctly in real time?
That's a great question. And yes, it should be, right? You got people above the coaches. You have the Rod Woods. You have the player personnel people. You have people above the coaches, and you have the owners, that look at the coaches and they judge what's going on, and they hear us on talk radio, and they hear the fans on talk radio, and they see this stuff on social media. They know that the fans aren't happy right now, and who would be happy with what we're going through right now. And again, it's a trying year. I mean, it really is. COVID being, not being able to do some of the things that they would have likely have been doing with training and all these different things. Yes, it's unusual circumstances, but the other 31 teams had to go through it too. So it's pretty much a level playing field. So we just need to play better as a team, and we need to finish games.
You have a weapon like Matthew Stafford, and you want to win with him, and he hasn't been able to get there yet. And you don't want to say, well, next year, if we get this piece and this piece, then we'll really be ready. You want to be able to do it right now. And we have a loss to Chicago, and it hurt, and a loss to Green Bay, and that didn't feel so great either. What do we have to do this week in preparation? What do we have to do on Sunday to get this thing turned around?
Well, to me, again, everything should be stressed about finishing games. Finishing. That should be the talk of the coaches. That should be the talk of the players. That should be even pent up around the Allen Park facility if they have to do that, is the word finish. That's what they have to work on. So if it's working on the 2-minute drill more than once, during practice, if it's going into your 4-minute offense, which is the offense you use to run out a game because you have the lead, then you go into that. But you have to find a way to stay aggressive and to finish these games. And the only way I know to do that is to stay aggressive. You have to stay aggressive with your play calling. You have to stay aggressive with your personnel. You just have to be an aggressive team. That's the only way I know to finish games in the NFL.
All right. Well, we're not giving up yet, Lomas Brown. We appreciate you coming on the Guy Gordon Show and bringing us the latest, some great insights. And we're gonna stick with them, and hopefully they'll get it done for us.
All right, hang on in there, Kevin.
All right, you take care. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes, but first let's check traffic and weather with Rich Lazinski.
WJR Traffic First is also sponsored by Gordon Chevrolet. Gordon Chevrolet, pull ahead your lease and take advantage of zero interest for up to 84 months or sign and drive lease program. End of the month deals, open special hours this Saturday 9 to 3. Gordon Chevrolet on Ford Road just west of Merriman in Garden City. GordonChevrolet.com. Gordon Chevrolet, find new roads. We have an accident on US 23 southbound after Owen Road. Another wreck on I-96 westbound after Wixom Road. And a wreck still closes I-94 eastbound at 9 Mile. Looks like you're backed up to Harper Avenue there. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, 69 degrees, WJR News in 2 minutes.
Clay's first day back on the job, he walked 3 miles. That's
whoa.
Keeps you in shape, I guess. So, Kevin, year 2000, I wasn't voting yet. How long did it take for them to come out with Georgia George W. as the winner.
Early December. I don't remember the exact date. It was after Thanksgiving and before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and what happened was, and that's why you really don't want to see this happen again, but in every little county in Florida, they each had their own challenges, and so they went to the little county courthouse, filed a challenge, and then a judge had to hear that challenge. Then that whatever the decision was, it had to get appealed, and then it had to go. It went to the Court of Appeals, and then they made a decision, and then it went from the Court of Appeals to the state Supreme Court for another decision. Then the next county would file their challenge, and then the state parties would file their challenge. There's so many court cases going on at once. I mean, dozens and dozens of court cases, all sending messages back to each county and community how to count their votes and what to do with hanging chads and pregnant chads, and if you can clean it up on the front end, it makes it a lot better on the back end. And that's kind of what they're talking about here.
Wow, what a mess. So how long were you down in Florida then covering that?
So I think I want to say November 5th maybe was the election day that year. And I left on the 5th and I came back the night before Thanksgiving. And so I was down there 3 weeks. So I covered the rest of it from here.
WJR Detroit and WDV.
Sorry, you said you were down
60
there.
WJR.
Yeah.
We're Detroit.
Well, Mike and I are doing this.
We're both trying to get rid of the station here. Wow.
Yeah, so it was 3 weeks. It was pretty wild. I mean, really, it was very cool for me, just learning how the courts work and how things happen, and watching it sway one way then the other. And ultimately, it all got to the Florida Supreme Court, which was conservative, and Bush became the president. And that's how it all works. Goes up to the Supreme Court.
Right.
State Supreme Court.
Well, and that's why a lot of people, it seemed like speculation to me, but you saw the news show saying, how will a Trump appointee to the Supreme Court, how would that affect the election if it got up to the Supreme Court?
Right. Exactly. So each state has state Supreme Court typically gets to make those calls once it gets to court after the election, but the legislators make the decisions beforehand. They make the laws on what the law is, then the courts interpret it. Wow. So, Laura, we're gonna go to Ruth here first, and then take calls after. Take calls next segment, or
yeah, we've got those 4 calls still here, and Ruth should be calling here any minute. And I'll let you know when she's there. But yeah, that's the plan.
All right.
So when you're down there for 3 weeks, you got to call home and say, honey, I won't be home for dinner between now and Thanksgiving.
It was pretty.
You probably didn't know when you were going to come back, though.
We did. I honestly thought I was going to go for a day or two, do some coverage on, hey, this is where the decisions are going to be made. But it was so wild and so much was going on. There's so much legal chaos going. We literally would drive from one courthouse to a different, from the noon show to the 6 o'clock show, and then there'd be some late session at 11, and something new would get filed. And I mean, it was we were on every single show every single day, 7 days a week, and never talked about the same thing twice. It changed that much. It moves so fast.
Do you have to go shopping every other week?
It was wild. I don't know. We didn't pack. We sure didn't pack much. I don't know what we ended up doing. It was Florida though, so we didn't complain. It was November and it was Florida.
Could be worse.
It wasn't Buffalo making the final call.
Yeah, they could have sent you to like the northern border of Montana.
As long as you didn't get any hurricanes.
Yeah. It was interesting, and the whole world was down there covering it. So obviously all the networks were there, but it seemed like every local station in the country sent people down, and so there was just trucks for miles and miles and miles, live shots, all over the place. It was crazy.
Weren't we supposed to ask Kevin about when ML chased him down on a story?
Oh, that's right.
ML,
yeah, ML said that
Kwame days.
Kwame.
All the Kwame days, him and Jim Schaefer saw you getting into a car and speeding out of the local 4 garage
lot. Mm-hmm.
Lot, yeah, wherever you guys parked, and and he said that he couldn't catch you. And I said, well, did you like watch the newscast that night to see what the story was? So I don't know, what kind of car did he say he was driving, Laura?
Black, and I want to say a Nissan, but that also doesn't seem right.
The Altima, an Altima, it sticks in my mind.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
don't.
right.
First of all, as you both know, I never left the roof, so that story doesn't sound right to me. During the Kwame years, I had let's see. Well, Kwame was 7 years. That's a long stretch. During part of the Kwame years, I had an old black Mercedes that was like 10 years old. I don't know. Well, if he didn't catch me, I don't know. But we were doing a lot of racing around. It was really fun. Those guys did such good work. Schaefer and Elric did such good work, and over at Channel 7, Steve Wilson did really good work. And I mean, man, everybody was working hard on that story for a long time. It was fun. You kind of rooted. I mean, you didn't want to get scooped on anything, but you kind of rooted for the other guys to keep the story going, because you sensed there was some real problems in the administration, and you couldn't do it all on your own.
Also, update, I just realized that I gave the wrong number because I apparently have fat fingers, but I'm texting Ruth's guy right now and gave the correct
wrong
number.
Well, we can start with some other callers and put around when she
He's
calls
typing.
in.
He started to reply right away, so.
Okay.
This is the Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
It is Monday, September 21st, 2020. You're listening to the Guy Gordon Show. The number is 1-800-859-0957. We're taking some calls. Let's talk to Matt in Grosse Ile about voting. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, good, thanks. As far as voting goes, I don't understand. People need to take this a little bit more serious. This is a privilege that we fought for to earn. People need to take it serious and make sure that they can do this correctly. The mail-in voting thing just bothers me. And along those same lines, if you're correct, and it sounded like one of your previous callers actually quoted the Constitution, why aren't these judges refusing to hear these cases if the judicial has no oversight over the legislation? Why? I don't understand it. If they don't understand the laws, they shouldn't be on the bench.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Senator Ruth Johnson in just a minute, and I will ask her that question for you. Why, judges can make rulings if stuff is brought to them, but if they're making rulings that are changing the law, they should be called out on that. And the legislators here in Michigan, it's Republican controlled, so they would have the ability to get the votes to take some sort of action to get the issue brought up. And even if the governor disagreed, they then could go to federal court and find out what the Constitution says. Although my reading of it is that Article 2 says the legislators do have that right. And I do appreciate and agree with you on voting. I'm going to vote in person, and I'm not overly worried about the crowds or how long it takes. Some people, I'm sure, are worried about COVID-19, because that's a real issue and people have concerns, and you don't want people not voting because of COVID, but you want to make sure that the election is fair. Ruth is here now. Let's go to Ruth Johnson on the line. Senator, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kevin.
Yeah, so we're having a lot of conversation. Some of it's about the Constitution and who has the right to make election laws. And there's been a lot of legal decisions that were made on Thursday and Friday that could impact how the vote goes in Michigan. And we've had a lot of questions about, should the Republican legislature call an emergency session and try and do something about decisions that the courts are making. And I'm glad you're on the phone. I wanted to get your take on what you think of the court's actions the last couple of days, and what, if anything, can be done about it.
Well, a lot of decisions have been made by Jocelyn Benson, our current Secretary of State, and now the judge that really put our elections at risk as far as integrity goes. So I'm very concerned about it. The state court of claims issued a preliminary injunction Friday, which requires absentee ballots postmarked by the day before the election date, that's November 2nd, to be counted if they're received after the polls close on election day. And it says that absentee ballots postmarked by the day before the election have to be counted if they're received up to 2 weeks, 14 days after the election, and that's the deadline to certify. We don't even get certified results for 2 weeks. So the order also allows a voter to select any individual to help return their absentee ballot to the clerk before 5 p.m. on Friday before election through 8 p.m. on election day. And the judge's logic for this is timing, as clerks are required by law to offer assistance if requested by 5 p.m. Friday before election. And then Michigan law currently states that only the voter or a member of their immediate family or household may return an absentee ballot for good reason. The order was issued by Judge Cynthia Stephens, who was appointed by Jennifer Granholm. It's really sad for me to see over the last few decades how partisan elections have become. There's nothing partisan about them. So the Secretary of State's office has said that they won't appeal the ruling, even though we won't be able to have citizenry involvement like we always have to watch over and make sure the rest of us are at ease and know things that are done right. And we have had an election recently where people were changing the ballots. The people that worked on the ballots were changing they didn't want someone that got voted in. So there was, and even when the observer who signed an affidavit said they were changing the ballot, they just kept right on. So I just think it creates huge issues for both the logistics and the integrity in administering our elections. And how can clerks continue to accept ballots right up until the same day that the vote needs to be certified at the counties? We're different than most states. Instead of 83 places that we vote, we have local home rule, county commissioners, over 400 school districts. So we have 1,520 clerks that conduct the elections, and the Secretary of State bypassed the local clerks, even though they're the ones that are supposed to take care of elections and been named some of the best. She sent out over 800,000 ballots to absentee ballot requests to people that vote in other states, are dead and non-citizens, and there's no system to root those out. So I'm just very concerned. Whoever wins is not really my goal, nor was it when I was Secretary of State. It was making sure that we had secure and fair elections, that people knew we had integrity. Almost half the people aren't going to be happy, but we have to get on together to work as a state and a country. And this kind of thing really causes a lot of problems and puts things in the court's hands rather than in the people's hands. So I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, and you have those concerns, but what can anyone do about it? I mean, should the leadership of the Republican Party call an emergency session? Would it do anything if they were to pass a statute or a binding resolution saying that, look, the Constitution says that the legislature has to change the laws, not the courts. Your decisions should not be valid.
Well, the Senate's not currently a party to the lawsuit, but the Senate will be filing a motion very soon to intervene in this case to try to appeal this verdict. We can't wait 2 weeks to get the preliminary data, those results. And the fact is, there's no law that we could make right now that would get the governor's signature. If you look at who is part of this lawsuit, it's the it's 5 large unions in the state. And like I said, when I was Secretary of State, I always had, staunch Republicans in my executive committee. We never looked at how to make things partisan. We always looked how to make things fair. We were number one in the United States for getting people registered to vote. We were the 11th highest in voting, and we always knew that we needed to make sure there was more convenience, but that at the same time, we needed to protect the integrity. Things are way different now, and I'm just very concerned for short and long term on how the people of our state and country are going to react when they know that systems have been put in place that strip the integrity out of our elections.
Yeah, if that motion gets filed, it goes right back to that same judge, and then if the judge decides against, it goes right back to Jocelyn Benson again on whether or not to appeal. Is that correct?
I'm not sure of what the court order would be and how that would work. We have attorneys that will be working on that, and I don't know.
I think it's really important. I was just going to say, I think it's really important, though, to go through the process so that the people can see who made what decisions, who decided to sign something or not, or who decided where people stand as it relates to, what the Constitution says and what the law says and how it's impacting the elections.
I had to vote absentee the last time, the night before the election, because I was exposed to COVID and I was told not to go to the elections, which I like to go watch my vote count. But in some places, a third of those ballots were completely scrubbed for everyone that they voted for. The only thing they got was the ballot proposals because they crossed over. Some of them they didn't fill out right. Some they didn't sign right. I like to go vote, but I also know that some people would like to stay home to vote, and I support that fully. But it must be fair. People have to have know that there's incredible integrity in our system.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and bringing us up to date. I know it's changing every day, and it's going to continue as we get closer and closer to the election. But we appreciate you coming on the Guys Gordon Show and letting us know what you know at this point. Thanks.
Kevin, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. We're going to get to your calls next after the break. The number is 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Right now, let's check in with Rich Lazinski with traffic and weather.
We have an accident on US 23 southbound after Owen Road that's blocking your left lane. That wreck on I-96 westbound after Wixom Road is cleared, although we still see a bit of residual traffic backed up to I-696. The roadway is reduced to 2 lanes on I-75 northbound between 7 Mile and Adams Road, and a wreck still closes I-94 eastbound between Vernier and 9 Mile. Now WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Here's your forecast.
South winds trying to warm the numbers, and temperatures climbing up close to 80 by Wednesday. Then another front zips in late this week, knocking us back down into the 70s. 70 this afternoon with sunshine, 49 tonight, and mostly sunny tomorrow, 75. Wednesday, mostly sunny, warmer, 80. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie, and more on News Talk 760 WJR.
All right, Laura's getting a couple more calls on the line there.
All right. Well, I don't know where we left off on the calls, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, she's reordering right now.
Did you watch the Lions or no?
I did. I was setting up for a family party, and so I was actually setting up a TV outside. And every time I'd go from the TV inside to the TV outside, I'd miss the score. So I think I was jinxing the Lions every time I switched TVs. I'm like, dang it, I missed another one.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I was up north with some people who are not sports fans necessarily, and it was like just getting ready for kickoff, and they're like, "Hey, let's go for a walk in the woods." I'm like, "All right." I get out there. There's no Wi-Fi, and so I couldn't even follow it on my phone. And I was also trying to watch the U.S. Open, which I'm a fan of the golf. But so I had about a 2-hour blackout, and it was just fine. By the time I got back, it didn't matter. I didn't have to go through any of the pain of watching them be ahead and then fall back. So, but it was good to talk.
The first couple of times I missed scores, I was like, "Oh, all right, the Lions are up. Oh, the Lions are extending their lead." And then we all know what happened after that.
Yeah, it was good to hear from Lomas though, and he kind of tells it like it is. He's not, even though he's into the Lions, he's like, look, they got to change some things, man. This isn't good.
Yeah, well, you got to be straight with people. I mean, people know when you're tap dancing around it, and Lomas is very direct.
Yeah,
I'm just so fascinated on how they're calling an away game in an empty stadium and making it sound like they're there. I mean, that's just I mean, it's probably a skill in itself to have that same energy, at least try to match the energy you would have in an empty stadium as you would have in a full one.
Yeah, I don't even know what that's like. I'll have to ask the next player run into or talk to, but you can't. It's the same. It's the same for both sides. I mean, if you got to play in Lambeau, this is a good time to play in Lambeau with no fans.
Right? Yeah. If there was a time we had to go to Lambeau, that would have been it. Here you come. 5 seconds.
All right.
This is the Guy Gordon Show, 760 WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Michigan is in play. Both the Republicans and the Democrats want the electoral votes. How far will either party go to win? Are the courts too involved? Should the Michigan legislature take action and say the Constitution says it's the legislature that decides election laws, not the executive branch, not the judicial branch? We're taking your calls. The number is 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Scott in Belleville, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, how are you doing this afternoon?
Oh, well, thanks for calling.
Well, I want just to make 2 points, basically. The first one is that the idea that making voting easier for everyone is a good idea is one that I completely disagree with, because I just don't. I believe that if they don't have to, if nobody has to put in any effort to do it, there's no personal involvement in it. Why even bother if you're going to make it so easy for everyone to vote? They don't have to have any knowledge about it. They don't have to have any basis for knowing anything about it. They just they don't even have to leave their house. They can just mail something in, and they don't have to put in any effort to exercise their franchise that they should be at least learning some information about it, and a lot of people don't. That's the first thing.
Well, a lot of people who go don't know much about what they're voting for either. They'll walk in and pick a name they recognize.
Making it easier just aggravates that problem. I mean, so at any rate, I mean, I can understand where somebody might disagree with that, and that's fine. But the other thing that I'd like to say is that if anybody believes that this isn't anything different than what happened in the 2016 election, they're not paying attention, because this is exactly what happened. Only there it was Trump interfered with the election with the Russians, and it's illegitimate, and you shouldn't believe it. And they played that out for 2 years, only to find out that it was all a fantasy. Well, this when we talked earlier, and everybody wants to say, well, they don't have any evidence of voter fraud. We don't really even need the evidence of the voter fraud. All you need to do is to have everybody believe that there's voter fraud, and you've got the problem.
I agree with that, Scott. I agree with that.
That is accomplished in this case very easily by completely messing the situation up. There's no reason why you have to send out ballots to everybody. If people don't want to go and vote in person, they can send an absentee ballot, and they send it in with their signature on it, and they get a ballot sent back to them. They fill it out. We got months before the election day. You could have them postmarked a week before election day, so they can all be at the precinct when it comes time to count them, and then you have maybe a day or two at the most after the election. This is never ending. This is going to be such a circle jerk that we're going to be weeks. I mean, if everything goes reasonably well, it's going to be weeks before we know who won, and that's just going to fuel a fire like you can't believe. And if you wonder why everybody don't just get together and be happy, is because the Democrats are crooked, and they're doing all this to cover for their loser candidate that is no way going to beat Trump. And
all right, Scott. All right, Scott, let's leave it there. I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling in. I do think there's a lot of scare tactics out there, whether people tell you your vote doesn't count, so why bother, or scaring people away from going to the polls because of COVID. There's a lot of that going on. You have a right to vote. You have a responsibility to vote. You need to vote. Let's check in with Robert in Sterling Heights. Robert, thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Oh, hello, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling.
I'll tell you what, I did talk with Senator McDonald's office today. They called me back, and they did say that the judge does have the authority to make that ruling, which I would totally disagree with, because no one person should have that much power in their hands. Absolutely shouldn't. And like you stated so many times before, the judiciary side of the government shouldn't make the laws. It should be the legislator, because it involves more people, much more fair. Now, some other things is, in the state of Michigan, yes, it gets delayed 2 weeks. You can have it has to be postmarked, or if it's a smudged postmark, they can accept it, and they can even accept it if it doesn't have any postmark at all. That's what I heard. Now, in Pennsylvania, what they said is the signatures do not have to match. But you know what? What I'd like, if I'm sending it in, I'm saying they may have said that they received it, but many times they don't count it for some reasons. You may not have put the envelope in correctly in there. You may have signed it. Some people forget to sign. And now some other people said, I guess it's 71 cents to send that through the mail, not your forever stamp or whatever it is. I think 45 cents now. It has to be 71 cents. So the post office can actually hold back on those for that reason. And I'm feeling I just don't think any precautions have been taken in this. Ruth Johnson was on there. She talked about this, but actually she and both Jocelyn Benson both did nothing so far as clean up the voter rolls. Like I said, I've got applications here for my daughter who hasn't lived here in years. My father received an application from my mother who died 22 years ago. All right. I haven't heard verified this, but I've even heard stories that people's dogs and cats have got applications, and there's no way to verify their signature against what they have. So I think this is going to be, it's going to be a complete mess in Michigan. And I think Michigan is going to be the Florida of 2000, what they're going to be. It could come down to Michigan very easily.
Well, I think I agree with you, Robert. I'm very concerned about a lot of the issues that you're bringing up. I'm going to vote in person. I think people, if they feel safe enough to vote in person, they should. But people are going to vote by mail. It's going to be a record number, and that means there's going to be a lot of questions, and a lot of this is going to end up in the courts. And that's why I think it's so important for the legislature to get in front of the election and make arguments for where they stand, so that when it ultimately does get to a court and gets decided, that they have made their case clearly in advance. That way, even if they get a bad ruling, it can go to the state Court of Appeals. It can go to the state Supreme Court, and you can get a ruling. You need to get people to vote, but you need the vote to be accurate and fair. You need a fair election, and there's a lot of concerns, and COVID has really thrown a wrench into what already is a concerning situation. Thanks for calling. We appreciate it. Let's check it with Sam in Ypsilanti. Sam, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, Kevin. On behalf of the listeners, can we call you Kev? Is that cool?
Sure.
All right, Kev. What I was thinking is about the deeper issue of it, as far as in regards to court orders, is the whole idea of a court order, which we're so used to. I mean, most citizens experience it in divorce and things like that. Is the whole idea of it unconstitutional? Because if a court or a judge is making an order, then in essence, they're bypassing every branch, like what you guys were talking about, you and your last caller. And then in essence, they're either a king or a queen. It makes me think of, history class, when people would go before a king, they'd make the judgment, make the order. And that's it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's something that really needs to get straightened out in midterms, not on the eve of an election. A few weeks out, all of a sudden, everybody who's been elected is going to, come in and say, this is what we should be doing, or this is what we shouldn't be doing. This is stuff that should have and could have gotten worked out in advance. This is the first time that there's been concerns. This may be the first time there's COVID, but there's a lot of concerns here about how to keep elections valid that should have and could have been addressed earlier. And I think it's fair for people to hold their elected officials accountable. And I think if this puts a lot of light on the fact that it wasn't done, so be it. I think what you're saying is true. There's going to be a lot of back to the courts to see if it's even constitutional what these court orders are. Same with executive orders. You got a lot of things that are taking place that are determining our lives that may not be constitutional. And it's troubling for sure. Let's check in with Craig in Grand Rapids. Craig, thanks for calling.
Actually, let's do that after we go to Rich in traffic.
Oh, okay. We're up against break. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Let's check in with Rich Lazinski, and then we'll be back with more of your calls.
A wreck still closes I-94 eastbound between Vernier and 9 Mile. We have an accident on US 23 southbound after Owen Road, and an accident blocks your left lane on I-69 eastbound at M54. Now WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. 69 degrees. I'm Rich Luzinski, WJR News in 1 minute.
Wow, the listeners are calling you Kev. They must really feel comfortable with you.
It's funny. A lot of people I don't know call me Kev. Ann calls me Kev all the time.
What about Dietzy? I feel like Dietzy would be a good nickname.
My nickname in high school was Dieter.
Dieter.
and that was my older brother's nicknames too. So it just kind of got passed along. So people who've known me a long time call me Dieter. Lots of people call me Kev. Dietzy, I don't get a lot of, but that's what McCarty calls me.
Well, I was thinking it's like a hockey nickname because usually hockey nicknames is like the first syllable of your last name with a Z at the end.
You just throw it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, I don't care what people call me, and I don't care if they get my name wrong. Lots of people get really upset and frustrated when you get their name wrong. Laura, you got a nickname? What's your nickname, Laura?
My family calls me Ra. That's about it. I've got a couple other like random names, but that's about it.
Was there like an infant that first called you Ra or something because I couldn't say Laura?
No.
I
don't have any story behind it. I've got I'm trying to think of what my friends, like a couple friends, each one has their own little nickname. My uncle calls me Rira, but that's about it.
Rira McIntyre. Yeah. That's how a lot of family nicknames happen, though. Like it's a kid that can't pronounce someone's full name, so that's your name from now on. Like,
well, my grandpa used to call me this, but when I was little, my middle name's Elizabeth, and I could not say Elizabeth. I used to say Avivius. So my grandpa did call me that for a while, but hasn't. That was always a once in a while nickname.
I like Avivius. It sounds like regal or like you're some kind of like future warrior. Laura of Vivius.
She's a Greek goddess.
Right. She's the Greek goddess of staying on time. My nickname in school before Ivan Rodriguez was dealt to Detroit was Pudge because I was slightly overweight.
That's mean.
You know what? It was said with love. At least I think so. Actually, I got some phone calls to make now that I think about it. I got some grievances to air.
Like, hey, pork chop, how you doing?
Hey, Husky, it's Fat Mike. No, usually people just call me by my last name because from the late 70s through the early 90s, everyone was naming their kids Mike, so I was just always Parsons.
Mikey P.
Yeah, that was my screen name on AOL Instant Messenger.
Wow, creative.
What's that?
Wow, creative.
Well, here's the thing, like
should we give Mike a Greek goddess name?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if we can top a Vivius.
Parsonasis, Greek god of
of hurtful nicknames. All right, we got Barb Mcquade coming up here. What a star-studded lineup.
Is she talking about the Lions, or is she talking? We're going to get into Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Who, a lot of people are probably surprised we didn't start there, but we had a lot to talk about today.
Well, you know what, and this Supreme Court story is not going away, so we've got plenty of time to talk about it for a long time.
It'll probably get more and more interesting each day. It's interesting to see. I mean, obviously Donald Trump's gonna name someone quickly this week, and it sounds like the Senate says they'll move on it. I don't know if anyone can stop them.
That's guy's welcome back present is the announcement.
Yeah, I don't think you can filibuster your way out of this one. I think if they want to ram it through, they can, and take their chances of what if the voting population punishes them for putting through a Supreme Court justice, or maybe they'll reward them. Who knows?
Shut up about your trip, guy. We've got a battle over the Supreme Court.
Guy's going to be. Then on the third day, I tried to get gas. It's like, now we're trying to get a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah. Here we are with the grandkids at the Java Juice or whatever it's called.
Right. So at the end of this, I'm going to pop back on. Is that the plan, Mike?
Yeah, I'll hit your traffic and weather sounder.
Give me one of these too.
Yeah. The people watching us on Facebook and YouTube are getting a little behind the scenes. As a spoiler alert, this next interview was pre-recorded earlier. So
earlier today.
Yes. And I'm only telling you that because I don't know how to fake it being live.
While the movers showed up to deliver a couch and ended up dropping it outside because they couldn't get it through the door. And so my wife was like, "You need to get out here and talk to these movers." I'm like, not.
Oh, I thought I heard
in the middle of the interview.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
I thought I heard something, but I thought it was a. Well,
and
you know,
I'm like this. I'm like trying to close the door. I'm like this.
Let's see if we can hear it. I thought it was a lawnmower. Here he comes. 15 seconds.
Yeah, listen for it.
This is the Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
The United States Supreme Court's leading liberal light died at home in Washington, D.C. on Friday of complications from pancreatic cancer. A women's rights and gender equality crusader, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was appointed to the country's highest court in 1993, the second woman in history. She held the post until her death. Known for her powerful dissents on the court, she became a beloved cult figure, earning respect from people across the political spectrum and achieving near rock star status. Joining us on the line now to talk a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg is Barb Mcquade, law professor at the University of Michigan and former United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. Barb, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, you bet, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
First, tell me a little bit about what this justice meant to you personally and professionally.
I think any woman who is a lawyer understands how much of a debt of gratitude we owe to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You know, she herself, despite being top of her class at Columbia Law School in 1960, was denied law firm jobs in New York City, was rejected from a clerkship for Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter because he said he wouldn't hire a woman as a clerk. And so to see her do the work she did, both as a lawyer, she was the lawyer who got the court to hold that the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment applied to gender discrimination. And as a justice, she wrote the opinion in the Virginia Military Institute case that said that colleges could not discriminate against women if they could meet the qualifications. So seeing all of that, I think we all understand that but for her work, we would not have the opportunities that we've had to serve.
There's going to be a lot of celebrations, remembering her life as we move forward in the next days and weeks. But there's also going to be a lot of speculation as to what happens next. President Donald Trump has already said that he plans to nominate a female sometime this week. What is your take on the president moving so quickly in saying that he's definitely nominating someone before the election and as soon as this week?
Well, ordinarily, I'd have no problem with it whatsoever. But we had the experience in 2016 where Mitch McConnell, as the Senate Majority Leader, said it was inappropriate to nominate a Supreme Court justice in an election year. You may remember that Justice Scalia passed away in February of 2016, and he said that was too close to the election. We should let the people decide who the president is who nominates the president. And now here we are with the tables turned even closer to an election. And he said that if the president nominates a candidate, then the Senate will confirm or will conduct a vote at least on that nominee. And so it seems hypocritical. And, not only does this kind of stick in the craw of people for political reasons, but I think it undermines our confidence in the court. We saw, Merrick Garland kind of get squeezed out, President Obama's pick, because there was no vote on him in 2016. And so to see President Trump fill yet a third seat, I think might cause harm to the legitimacy of the court.
So what would the process look like? And we have to assume that if Donald Trump says he's going to do it, he most likely will nominate someone. What would happen next, and how will this work up against the timetable of both the upcoming election and the rest of the president's term in office?
Well, ordinarily, once a candidate is nominated by the president, they go on a little visiting tour. They visit all the senators and pay them a courtesy call to try to talk with them privately about any concerns that senator might have about his or her qualifications or experiences. I don't know that there's time to do that little charm offensive that we might have seen in the past, but I don't know that it's necessary. With Republicans controlling both the presidency and the Senate, it seems that they have the votes to confirm a candidate. And so I think there would be a confirmation hearing where they would be asked questions in front of the public. And so long as that goes smoothly, I think Mitch McConnell could engineer a vote. If not before the election, before the end of President Trump's term, which doesn't end until January. So even if there is not a vote before the election, he could, even as a lame duck president, nominate and get someone confirmed as long as it happens before January 20th of 2021.
Now, not too long ago, you used to need a super majority vote, right? But now you just need a simple majority, 51%.
Yeah, and this is something that happened when Democrats were in power, and I think it's a good lesson that one should be careful about the rules a party makes while they control the office and control the levers of government, because the day will come when the other party is in charge, and these kinds of rules can be a blessing or a curse depending on who wields the power.
Now, Nancy Pelosi has said we have options if the president tries to do this. Does she have options, or do the Democrats have options? What do you see likely to happen here?
I think there are a few things. I mean, one is if she can get, I think the number would be 4 Republican senators to agree that they should follow the path they set down in 2016. Mitt Romney has already said he'll do that. I know Susan Collins of Maine has suggested that she might follow suit. So if they can just get 2 more senators to agree with that, I think that would be an option that they have. I also think that there's a risk that pushing through a justice in the Trump administration could backfire at the polls. I think that voters might see this hypocrisy as something that could sway their vote. So I think Republicans have to be careful not to overplay their hand here. And that could be part of the strategy that Nancy Pelosi has in mind.
Could the process be delayed, say, if Biden were to win and President Trump nominated someone? Could they delay it long enough where they would take back the nomination?
Not likely, as long as the Senate is controlled by Republicans, which they will through the end of January. The Senate switches over on January 3rd, and so even if Republican senators are replaced by some Democrats in November, this Senate still holds the cards until January. And so I think that if they want to, they can ram through
Trump's nominee.
So does this become
the
the
question is
biggest
whether the
issue?
political cost is worth it.
Do you think this now becomes the biggest issue in getting out the vote and who wins this election?
I think it certainly focuses voters' attention on this issue. It's always present. We have a few justices who are in advancing age, and I think it was fair speculation that the next president would fill at least one, if not more, seats on the Supreme Court. But now, with the death of Justice Ginsburg, it is staring us all in the face. So I think it becomes a more urgent issue, and it may motivate voters in both parties to get to the polls, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I think the thing that Democrats could use as an inspiration for voting to get out the vote is the hypocrisy of Republicans in saying in 2016 it was inappropriate to fill a Supreme Court seat close to an election, and then doing just the same thing when they're the party in power.
All right, Barb Mcquade, thanks so much for joining us on the Guy Gordon Show today. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, a lot to think about there. We're going to take your calls on that coming up after the break. 1-800-859-0957. Give us a call at 1-800-859-0WJR. Right now, let's check traffic with Rich Lazinski.
A wreck still closes I-94 eastbound between Vernier and 9 Mile. It's causing stop-and-go traffic from Connor Street. Traffic is being forced to exit at Vernier. Drivers can detour Gratiot northbound to I-696 eastbound back to I-94. We have an accident on US 23 southbound after Owen Road, blocking your left lane. That wreck on Ortonville Road between Richfield and Clark Road is cleared. An accident blocks your left lane on I-69 eastbound at M54. Construction slows you down on the Lodge between McNichols and 7 Mile. The Southfield Freeway remains sluggish in both directions at Michigan Avenue. That's due to continued construction, and the roadway is reduced to 2 lanes on I-75 northbound between 7 Mile and Adams Road. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by North Bloomfield Properties. If you're looking for a place to call home, let North Bloomfield Properties find the best place for you and your family. They also provide pre-screened quality tenants to their property owners. They love to match good people to good homes. Contact them today, northbloomfield.com. Here's your forecast.
South winds coming around the backside of Canadian high pressure warm us up here for the top of the work week. About a 10-degree warm up by Wednesday for us. After a chill in the air this weekend, we're at 70 this afternoon. Comfortable 49 tonight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high 75. Wednesday, sunshine and 80. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie, more on News Talk 760 WJR.
Smooth like butter. Nobody listening on air knew that was a tape.
No, there were some slight audio drops though from that room. I could sort of wavered a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said, it wasn't fatal, but where you are now is much
stronger.
Better. Yeah.
I think we would have been annoyed with it if it was for the entire show, but it was fine for that interview.
Right. Hey, are we at Ruth Ann still on? Ruth Ann, Paul, Jeff? Is that where we're at on the call?
Yes, she is. Yep. Everyone's still in order there.
I don't know if I skipped anybody. I always feel bad if go out of order.
No, I don't think you did. And usually I'll reorder too. So I think you're good.
So Barb Mcquade said that if they want to, they can name this next Supreme Court justice, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it. It might just cost them at the polls if the public is mad about it.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if it. I'm not even sure if it would.
I don't think it would necessarily hurt. If anything, it might help.
I'm wondering.
Well, and Barb brought up a good point. I think a lot of people. I was assuming it's like, oh well, okay. If the Democrats wanted to stall, they only would have to stall till November. But no, they would have to stall till January because even after November, they'd still be in office.
Right.
Until the inauguration. So yeah, it's looking more and more likely that Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, they have some phrasing that might come back to haunt them. But honestly, I don't think they care because they have an opportunity to really stack the court, and it's about doing that and not necessarily being consistent.
I think they go for it and see what happens. I mean, there are, the next president may name more justices as well, and you could lose out on the ability to name over the next 4 years, I suppose. But you have an opportunity right there. I think they're going to take it.
Well, and also I don't think Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham are in vulnerable districts. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about how vulnerable Republicans might not opt to vote, but I don't know. I mean, those would be two guys I'd be shocked if they were voted out of their offices, and I'm not even sure if I'm not even sure if they're running this term.
Well, at their ages, they're probably just fine. It seems like everybody who leaves office after they've been in that long is a billionaire, multi-billionaire, or something. I don't know how that all works, but it sure seems to.
You know, I've always wanted to run for office so that I can do like 2 to 4 years, then just have the lifetime benefits.
Go on the book tour, go on the speaking tour.
You know, I always had a dream of running for Secretary of State, and my platform would be you renew your tabs on your half birthday and not your full birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, what's up? It's a little over your shoulder. You're getting photobombed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the nice birthday message.
Hey, you're eating my cake! Just kidding. That's Richard's cake.
That camera wasn't up.
Oh, yeah. Richard's trying to use the space, but we had the camera off. Yeah. Hey, Richard, show everyone your really cool shirt.
Oh, it's great.
We're back in 15 seconds, but
Mike got it for me.
That's my
nice.
It's the cast of Frasier as a metal band.
Wow, that's nice. What a good friend.
French. Actually, it was my wife, believe it or not. She saw it and she knew Rich loved Frasier. Oh, hey, we're back.
Bye.
Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
The phone lines are open, and the number is 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Let's get right to the phone lines. Let's talk to Ruth Ann in Rochester Hills. Thanks for staying on the line, Ruth Ann. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Just a little pushback on Barbara McQuade.
Sure.
There was a Democrat president, a Republican Senate, and it's a totally different situation now. And does anybody think for 1 minute that if there was a Democrat president, a Democrat-led Senate, that they would not vote on if it was the same situation? Of course they would. And besides that, the Constitution says the president has all authority to do this. He doesn't have to wait. And then another issue I wanted to just raise in defense of Ruth Johnson. There was a caller that said she didn't clean up the rolls. She absolutely did. What has happened, thousands of people, dead people, people that moved away were taken off the rolls. These ballot request forms that are going out, not the absentee ballot requests, those are totally different. But the other requests are not coming from, I happen to know this because I asked specifically the Rochester Hills clerk, Tina Barton, who's running for Oakland County clerk, fantastic candidate. And she informed me that this is coming from a Washington, D.C. group, and she has contacted them and they will not return her call. It's a PAC that's doing this, a political action committee. And it's fraudulent because I have 4 friends in Troy who have received ballot request forms for their children who've been out of the home for multiple decades. They live in California, they live in Illinois, and one person even got one for her son who passed away. So these are not coming from Michigan's state of Michigan voter rolls that Ruth Johnson cleaned up. I just wanted to get that out there. So
I appreciate you calling with that. Yep, appreciate you calling. Very interesting. Would the Democrats ram through a nominee to the Supreme Court if they had the power to do so? And will the Republicans? And if the Republicans do, will voters punish them for it, or will they think that's what they should do in the first place? Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's check Paul in Brighton. Paul, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Well, I think the Constitution does state that the president
will nominate and the Senate will give advice and consent. But you see, when Mitch McConnell writes the Sandlot rules, it's always a double standard. Is it not a double standard? Is it not a double standard that Mitch McConnell stonewalled the nomination of Merrick Garland and also stonewalled the retirement of Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she can't retire in 2016 if, given she had cancer then too, if she knows that her seat is not going to get even a hearing, as neither did Merrick Garland. So agree with me right now that it's a double standard that Mitch McConnell is pursuing. Yes?
Yeah, sure. Shouldn't they punish Mitch McConnell for that?
That's what it is. Republicans are a double standard and they're cheaters. And so don't give me this, wouldn't the Democrats do the same? The point is Mitch McConnell's doing it. And Mitch McConnell is the one who got rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court justices. So he's the rammer througher. Don't start talking about the Democrats, okay? Be fair, because you don't have an example of the Democrats ramming through a Supreme Court justice, do you?
Well, I don't think I said that was the case. I think I said, would they if they had the power, and will the Republicans if they do? And I think the Republicans probably will. And will voters punish them for that? It sounds like you would punish them for that. But more importantly, I guess it's what will the independents do? Will independent voters say the Republicans are clearly showing a double standard here? Let's vote them out of office. Do you think that's what the independents will do? Will the Republicans be hurt for using the double standard? At least I'm not arguing there's a double standard there. I don't know if other people are or not.
Well, isn't it also a double standard that Martha McSally in Arizona, who lost her Senate race in 2018, is going to vote on the nomination of a Supreme Court justice because she was not only is she a loser, then she was then appointed to take John McCain's seat? Isn't that a weird double standard that somebody who lost will now vote?
Well, clearly it is. It's just this is where we're at with politics and politicians now. I mean, it's been shown over and over again. I appreciate your call. Let's go to Jeff in Shelby Township. Jeff, thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Not bad. My original opinion was kind of taken out of its tail by a previous caller, but the caller just before me is kind of the typical left-wing voter, low information and quick to anger, because it's not a double standard. The rule is actually called the Biden rule, and it has to deal with a party separation between the president and the Senate. And it's been that way since, I believe, the 1800s, and Biden said something about it during the Bush election. It's been called the Biden rule ever since. And I believe it's also during the 8th year of the president's term, and Trump's only at the 4th year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do. Look, I think there's a lot of double standards, and both parties use them. If the Republicans are in power, they're going to try and do things to get as many people on the Supreme Court as possible. If the Democrats are in power, they're going to try and do whatever they can to get as many people as possible on the Supreme Court, and to keep the president's office, and to win the Senate and Congress. I mean, that's what they're there to do. It seems a little silly saying one side does it and the other side doesn't. But that's fair for him to say. I don't have a problem with it. All right. Sorry, Brent, we weren't able to get to your call. We ran up against the clock, but we appreciate you calling. Give us a call tomorrow. This issue is not going away. Thanks for everyone who did call the Guy Gordon Show today, and thanks to all our guests. We will be back tomorrow. Right now, let's check in with traffic and weather and Rich Lazinski.
I liked Paul from Brighton because you agreed with him, and then he just started arguing what he probably thought you were going to say, because you go, just say it's a double standard, and you said it's a double standard. Mitch McConnell should be the one punished, and he goes, don't tell me the Democrats do it too. I'm like, you didn't say that.
Well, yeah, I did give it a chance to take a secondary issue with the senator from Arizona, but it's a double standard. That's not the point,
right?
Yeah, it is interesting though. I don't know. Obama was lame duck and Trump has only had 4 years, and there's a lot that goes into it. But it is funny to me when callers jump on and they somehow think that whatever party they are in or side with, that they don't do anything wrong and the other party does everything wrong. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, Donald Trump, I have no problem with him appointing a nominee because he wasn't part of that 2016 kerfuffle. But personally, I do think, like I said earlier, Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham don't look great in this. But like we said, they probably don't care because they have a chance to stack the court. And like you said, whether they keep their seat or don't, they'll be okay.
Take one for the team.
That's right.
Okay. All right, Laura. Thank you for all your help.
You're welcome. We'll chat in the morning.
All right. Sounds good. See you guys.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow.
All right.